Hey guys, I watched Etsy's Q4 and 2024 financial results wrap-up presentation so that you don't have to, and I have taken a lot of notes, so I'm going to break them down for you today. Now, these things can be a little bit of a snooze fest, a little bit tedious if you don't know what you're listening out for, but luckily for you, I worked for 10 years in big, huge retail businesses just like Etsy, so I kind of got quite good at extracting the need-to-know, juicy information that we all want to hear and filtering out the rest, and so that is exactly what I am going to break down for you in this video today. Now, a big theme, just before we get started, I'll do a little bit of a wrap up or pre-wrap up, I guess, a little bit of a what's to come. So a big theme throughout the presentation was Etsy is continuing in this quest to go back to its roots to become, the destination for unique artisan products. There was a huge focus on artisanal items, craftsmanship, and quality, and also a focus on elevating the sellers who meet Etsy's high standards for customer satisfaction. There was another focus on how they spent most of 2024 really playing the long game. So moving away from optimizing for the here and now conversions. So if you saw, dips in conversion rate last year, this is why they were moving away from locking in the sale there and then, and they were happy to interrupt kind of the buying kind of patterns and the buying activity to encourage people to download the app. Now, when this is known across the industry, this is known across all of e-commerce, when customers get into the app and start to shop in the app, they become better customers, they spend more, they come back over and over again, they have better experience. So this makes sense that they wanted to funnel as many customers as possible into the app, but that did have an impact on conversion rates in 2024. What they have said in this presentation for 2025 is there will be a bit more of a balanced view between optimizing for the conversion and getting those customers into the app as well. So that's good to know that that is to come. Now, if 2024 was the year of gifting on Etsy, 2025 is going to be the year of personalization, which it's always been at the core of what Etsy has been known for. And in fact, this morning I actually received an email about personalized jewelry, so like custom name jewelry. So they're obviously following through on this promise here as well. I'm going to take you into a lot more detail on this as we go through the presentation deck, but just to note that this is going to be a big focus for them for 2025. So where gift mode came in and there was all that exciting stuff going on in 2024, you can expect to see interface and website updates in 2025 in order to help customers to more easily check out and add personalization and things like that. And there's going to be apparently updates to the interface our side, so in the seller app and in the seller website, to help with this as well. The big thing that we all want to know as well was, how did sales perform? So was it just our shops that were seeing a struggle in 2024 and in Q4 in particular? Was the market slower than usual? Was Etsy slower than usual? So let's dive into all of the results now and I will break it down for you. So overall for the year, Etsy and the group of Etsy, which includes Reverb and Depop, was 12.6 billion gross merchandise sales. So that's the revenue that came in from our products, right? That's minus 4% year on year, but actually it was a little bit worse than that for Etsy. So like I say, that includes Reverb and Depop as well. But when we look at Etsy Marketplace as a whole, for the quarter four, they were down 8.6% year over year. And for the entire year, I believe they were 6.8%, if I can find in fact 6% here, down for the year as a whole. Okay, so that means that as a whole, people were shopping less, they were spending less money, and yeah, if you saw a decline in sales, that's probably why. Now, obviously, it's not the only reason why, but that is an indicative factor that actually people were not spending as much on the platform, which could have impacted the way that your sales were too. Now, there was a number of factors cited for this, but I'm just going to whiz through the presentation and take us to the numbers around customer retention and reactivation and all of that good stuff, so we understand what is going on in terms of the buyer. We'll go back through the other bits of the presentation after, but I thought I would focus on the money first and foremost, because that's what we are all here to understand. So like I say, the overall revenue was down. When we actually look at where that came from, it's not looking good from a CRM perspective. Now, this was my background, CRM, looking after customer retention and really looking at the customer journey and making sure that we were not necessarily responsible for bringing new customers in, but we were responsible for making sure those customers continue to buy. And what you can see from these numbers here is basically we were down on all of those accounts. So active buyers in total were down in terms of the number of people just actively shopping on Etsy. New buyers was considerably down, so it looked to me like they have kind of cut some marketing spend there in terms of recruiting new customers that have never shopped on Etsy before. They were a little bit up for reactivated buyers, as in getting people who had previously shopped and then started lapsing. So, for example, maybe they shopped at the start of 2023 and then they hadn't shopped for 6 to 12 months after that. They kind of increased the number of people they managed to drag back and get buying again with another order, which is always a good thing. Repeat buyers was down, so in terms of people coming back to Etsy to buy, again and again. Habitual buyers, in people who buy consistently, were down, and the amount of money that people were spending when they did shop was down too. So a little bit of a negative picture overall in terms of who was shopping, how much they were spending, when they were coming back to shop. So all of this work that Etsy have claimed to be doing on getting people into the customer journey and then into the app and, coming back to shop time and time again, which was the big focus for 2024. What this presentation basically told us was that stuff that they focused on in 2024, we should see the results of in 2025. So let's see what happens there. There was a lot of work done to this. At the end of the day, it can be really frustrating to look at these numbers, but at the end of the day, Etsy wants to make money too, right? So they don't want to lose money. Now, one thing that was very interesting was that Etsy profits were higher than the year before. So they actually, despite making less revenue, they actually made more internal profit, and that came from seller fees, which, before you panic, was mainly down to the new shop setup fee, which also led to less sellers on the platform too. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, is that the right phrase? Where it feels a little bit negative, but actually when we dig down into it, the fact that they brought this fee in for people to start setting up shops meant that it put people off who were not serious about, creating good quality products and really going hard after their, having success on the platform. They also stated that as a result of the lower number of sellers on the platform, more sellers who are selling on the platform actually went on to make a sale in 2024, as in a big percentage of sellers on Etsy never actually make a sale because they set up a shop and then they, a lot of them were scammers, sadly. A lot of them are, they're kind of throwing up low quality products and people are not necessarily buying it, but obviously that then clogs up the marketplace for the real genuine sellers who want to offer what they have. So, like I say, there's kind of good points and bad points here. It's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how this goes in Q1 and Q2 and onwards. One thing that they did mention also was that they were predicting that sales will continue to decline at the same rate versus last year for 2025. So we can reasonably expect a -6 to -7% in sales for Q1 and Q2. And they're hoping that Q3 and Q4, the results of everything that they've been doing over the last 12 months and then the start of this year will start to come to fruition and we'll start to see some growth. So let's see what happens there. Now, that is the big numbers part over pretty much. I think that we can all safely say that we saw the impact of less buyers and, less kind of actual revenue coming through to the platform. We all saw a lot of that in 2024. Let's hope that some of this work is really going to help us in 2025. And also, just keep in mind, like I say, that some of this is all, some of the results that you get are always going to be as a result of, the marketplace as a whole, because naturally people are spending less, then your customers are likely spending less too. But that being said, there were so many sellers that had so many wins in 2024 as well, in terms of new sellers bringing something to the new to the market, sellers that were bringing customers back time and time again because they were amazing customer service and they were amazing, they were creating amazing products. So not all of your success is going to be down to Etsy's success as a whole. Some sellers can win, even in any kind of climate, some sellers will obviously struggle in line with these numbers as well. But there's plenty that we can do to keep bringing those sales in 2025. So a couple of other things to just tap into while we are talking about the numbers. All of Etsy's key categories were down for the year. So other than gifting had a higher sales rate in 2024 than any other category. However, take that with a pinch of salt because gifting was never a category necessarily before. So this is gifting how Etsy have deemed it in 2024, had an increased take rate and an increased percentage of sales. So home and living takes up 38% of the sales on Etsy as a whole. Jewelry and accessories is 18%, apparel is 15%, craft supply is 7%, paper and party supply 6%, toys and games 4%, and 12% is everything else that doesn't necessarily fit into one of these categories, right? So this just gives you an indication of what is still selling on Etsy and what's selling best. And in terms of the geography, I found this one quite interesting because they quite often don't give us this information. But this is basically telling us that 75% of buyers are in the US, versus 25% of Etsy buyers are outside of the US. Now, the big thing that I took from this was the mention of tariffs and things like this, that all of the stuff that's going on right now in the world in terms of, tariffs being brought in and shipping being made difficult overseas and things like that. There could be a problem potentially here if tariffs start to be introduced for certain customers. It's going to be, make some of that international portion of the sales more difficult. So it's just something to keep in mind that if you are outside of the US, 75% of the buyers are in the US, so you might want to consider selling to the US because that opens up a big slice of the pie, literally here. And equally, if you are in the US and you are, only selling to the US, you also have a good kind of chunk of people outside of the US that are wanting to buy from you as well. One other thing that was mentioned was, like it says here, US buyer gross merchandise sales in terms of the number of sales, the revenue that came in from your product selling versus US buyer sales. They were both down, but one thing that was mentioned was that non-US sales were down even more than US as well. So if you are outside of the US, you are in the UK, you're in Europe, the rest of the world, then you might have seen more of a decline too. So let's dig into the more exciting bits of the presentation. So the things that are to come, the things that we need to know, the things that we might need to implement in order to make our experience even better on Etsy in 2025 for our customers. Now, like I mentioned right at the start, a big part of this and a big topic that was talked about throughout the presentation and throughout this deck as well was the whole making Etsy more special, the starting point for special, right? So an anecdote that Josh Silverman, CEO, often mentions is he always says that people think of Etsy, or anecdotally, a lot of buyers say that they come to Etsy when they've looked elsewhere and they've not been able to find what they're looking for. And so a big part of his goal is to flip this around and get Etsy to be at the forefront of buyers' minds so that they are going to Etsy first and foremost rather than just thinking it's something that, they need to check last minute if they can't find something elsewhere. So making Etsy front of mind for these artisanal handmade products. And again, that was a massive push and a massive focus in a lot of the presentation. So in terms of the stuff that we're talking about that they worked on, they talked about this quality score that they introduced in 2024. Now, I was a bit confused by this one because I am 100% certain that there was always a quality score involved in ranking our products in search. So clearly something changed in 2024 that made them focus on this even more. So the quality score in 2024 was all around focusing on the quality of the product in terms of the quality of the shop in terms of things like shipping on time and great reviews on a product. And then they obviously launched the seller search and visibility page to help you make, even better on those promises to your customers. In 2025, they're planning on adding almost an advanced version of this, so more insights into that quality score. So whether they'll share this with us or not, a big thing they talked about was level of craftsmanship. And actually what they talked about in the Q&A at the end was how they are investing in AI tools and large learning models and large learning language models, and basically AI that is going to be able to be so clever that it can read a photo, so it can look at a photo and it can understand the level of craftsmanship that went into making that product. So for example, if it was a handmade table, it can even look at things like the joins and figure out how much work and effort and energy went into the joinery in that table in order to rank it in terms of craftsmanship skill level. Now, this might be a little bit of a worry for, digital sellers and print-on-demand sellers and things like that. We're going to have to just see how this pans out. I am very, very excited about this for handmade sellers who are, handcrafting products and really working their backsides off to make these incredible, beautiful, one-of-a-kind handmade pieces. This feels like a real win for sellers like this. And then in terms of, digital sellers and print-on-demand sellers and sellers that sell things that are maybe less highly skilled, it will be interesting to see how this works in terms of ranking in searches for certain things. Now, one thing to remember is if somebody is looking for a table, they are not looking for a digital download anyway. So it doesn't really matter that your digital download is maybe ranked as a lower skilled product than a handmade, hand-joined table, for example. This is more going to be pitting products against each other within the category that they are in, right? So if somebody uses the search term wedding table plan, there might be, you know, certain table plans that maybe rank higher because they're handcrafted versus digitally designed and, you know, using a print on demand partner, for example. So I wouldn't panic at this stage. It's not a case of you are going to fail if you are not handcrafting your products, but very much within your craft. What is going to be really, really important here is using the best possible photos to showcase your process. I've talked about this for years, and this is something that we often panic about, or sellers often panic about when they see these changes come in. Nothing has changed here in terms of what you need to do in order to make the maximum possible sales from your products by showing your customers how you make your products, how much effort and time and love and attention and care and energy goes into creating your products, especially if you are hand making them and handcrafting them, right? So nothing is necessarily changing right now, but it's something to just consider to make sure that if you are investing huge amounts of time and energy and effort into making your products, you should be investing the same amount of energy into photographing and videoing your process and getting that content captured and getting the best possible high quality images captured of your products to make sure that you are also telling Etsy and telling the algorithm that you're doing all of those things too, right? Now, my understanding of this prioritizing recommendations for sellers is that they are going to be telling us how to make sure we are showing the algorithm what we have done to create our products and how we make sure that we are doing the most that we can to sell our products too. So next up, I mentioned before about how if 2024 was the year of gifting, 2025 is going to be the year of personalisation, right? So like it says here, gifting percentage of gross merchandise sales grew to 29%. So grew versus any of the other categories. Now this is a lot of this is, like I say, because obviously sellers shifted into marking their products as gifts and things like that as well. So there's an element of that in there. But equally, you know, there's a real opportunity here. And this is something we talk about inside the Daily Sales Society all the time about how we frame our products for different events, different seasons, different people, and really understanding who your customer is and how you sell to them at different points of the year is going to be even more important than ever, right? So making sure, again, that if we sell products that maybe don't traditionally seem like they could be gifting products, can you reframe them as a gifting product? But like I say, that was 2024's focus. It's going to continue to be a focus for 2025. But a big thing for 2025 is going to be the personalization element, right? So a third of buyers come to Etsy to look for personalized or customized items. We know this. We know that it's huge on Etsy. We know that this is what people want to see. A third of the gross merchandise sales came from personalized or customized items too. Okay, so they're coming to a third of buyers are coming to look for it, and a third of buyers are actually actively buying personalized items too. So 1/3 of everybody buying on Etsy is looking for personalized and customized items. So if you are not, you know, offering this as an option, then you're missing out on potentially a third of your sales. So really, really, really important yet again to think about this. So another thing they talked about was the Etsy Insider app. So this was the the program. This was the trial they put together last year to offer things like free shipping to certain sellers. So it was a really small pilot program, and a really small percentage of sellers could opt into it if they wanted to. And basically, Etsy was offering these sellers free shipping on all orders over, you know, a period of time for a set fee. And they were then going to get things like benefits on their birthdays, you know, like it says here, like vouchers on their birthdays and things like this. So they launched this at the end of last year in the fall. And what they have said is basically there's an encouraging amount of data that said that this is working quite well so far. There obviously isn't anything worthwhile sharing because they haven't shared any specific details, but basically they're going to continue to push this, continue to trial it, and see how it continues to encourage people to keep coming back, buying more often. Now, the next thing they talked about was their actual investment in marketing and, you know, ads and things like that. So obviously there was a lot of talk last year about things like the TV adverts, things like that. One big thing that they pushed was, or they kind of mentioned, was that they are moving away from some of the kind of more traditional ways of advertising. So linear TV, which is, you know, like live TV, people watching TV with adverts on it, versus pushing budget in 2025 into more like on-demand channels, YouTube, things like that. So that's going to be an interesting one to see if that is going to pay off, because obviously they are platforms that you can skip adverts on, and so potentially that is a negative there. However, they are much more hyper targeted to the type of person that wants to see it, rather than everyone who's watching a program, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how that one works. Another big thing that they mentioned was there's going to be an even bigger push in 2025 to use their own channels, so to use email marketing, to use social media more strategically, and a real push for CRM, which is, like I say, this is my background. It's all around customer relationship, customer retention, making sure you are joining the dots across different channels to make sense for individual customers and to keep top of mind and keep people coming back to buy. So I was very excited about this one. And Etsy, if anybody manages to see this from Etsy, please, please, please let us have access to email our customers more easily from the platform or something like this, because there is so much opportunity here to get our customers coming back time and time again with new ranges, new drops, special offers, things like that. I would absolutely love it if Etsy made it easier for us to email our customers or get our customers consent to opt into our email list. You can absolutely do this already right now, but you have to follow a specific process, and it is quite difficult to convert Etsy buyers into email signups, as it is right now in terms of the way that Etsy allows us to contact our customers. So like I say, Etsy, if you're listening to this, not that you will be, but if you are, I would love the option for us to be able to do this. Okay, next up, there was a huge focus on the way they are designing things within the app. So this was talked about a lot last year. They moved away from this rear view mirror approach, which was basically the approach of, you've bought this, here's some more things like that, right? Which to an extent works, because you're understanding that your customer likes a certain product or a certain thing, and so maybe that will mean that they will come back and buy it again. But it only works for so long, right? Because people don't necessarily need a wedding table plan time and time again, and they don't necessarily come and buy a necklace and then want to come and buy another necklace, right? So there's going to be a big push in 2025 in terms of making Etsy more of a browsable, inspirational, almost like Pinterest-like place to hang out in terms of the main landing pages. So this won't happen in search, but this will be more around when somebody lands on the Etsy app, how can we showcase all of these brand new, fresh ideas, inspiration, and kind of really put to the front the different types of products that Etsy sells. I think this is a really good thing. I think this is a really good investment, and I am excited to see how it goes. There is also a lot of innovation coming in terms of AI for this, and I am really excited to share some of the little juicy nuggets that I took from this one. So let's just scroll into this next slide, which is basically creating this customer relationship flywheel. So this is the CRM. This is my bread and butter. This is what I love. It is getting people's data, understanding exactly how they tick, what they love, what they don't like, what's going to make them buy more, right? So they're going to be spending a lot of time creating more personalized experiences based on the data that you give to Etsy as a buyer. And that data will be very, very, very subtle signals. So right now, what Etsy is doing is they are looking at things like favorites, like sales, like good reviews, and going, okay, this person likes this product, show them more of these things. Now, these are great because they are obviously very, very hyper specific to somebody's preferences. And we've talked about this again in the Daily Sales Society in the past, where we have Etsy's algorithm basically uses certain keywords and certain elements of your listing to give extra context to what that listing includes to match to customers' preferences. So, for example, if a customer is consistent, this is what I am taking from this. Etsy has not kind of outright told us the kind of ins and outs of this, but this is basically what I'm understanding about how platforms like this work, how algorithms like this work, is if a customer consistently interacts with listings that, for example, have the keyword boho in them, or have the keyword, dusky pink in them, for example, Etsy is going to remember that that's something that they're interested in and be able to drag things like that up as a relevant product, right? Because they have somewhat of an understanding of your style and preferences there. Okay. Now, like I said before, Etsy has previously been focusing on things like favorites and favorites and sales and add to bag and things like that. So they are positive sales signals, which are really, really important. But if you think about a conversion rate, typical conversion rate on Etsy being 1 to 2%, Think about the 98 to 99% of people who haven't checked out, and maybe less than that, who haven't added to, had added something to their favorites. You haven't got any data on what they like. So you can't serve them hyper personalized content, right? So what they're going to be focusing on in 2025 is much more nuanced things. So they are going to, let me just grab my notes up to remind myself, they're going to be paying attention to screen watch time, scroll time, i.e. which items did you skim over like really quickly, which should you maybe hover on or zoom into. So for example, if you saw this thumbnail and you zoomed in to look at the details, Etsy's going to register that and go, this person is interested in this product, right? If you saw this teapot and you just flick straight past it, they know you're not interested in it. It's really, really, really hyper personalized, hyper specific stuff. And I'm very excited to see how this pans out. And basically, what this is going to do is it's going to help them to understand what to show you more likely in search. So, what you are more likely to want to click on, so that 1 to 2% of customers, maybe that click conversion being quite low from search into a product, it gets higher, right? Because they're going to be getting better at showing you products that you want to see and that you want to buy. So that is very, very exciting. They're going to be using, like I say, these LLMs, these language learning models, so AI, to go, okay, they skip past this, so maybe that is more relevant to, a different type of product, and they zoomed in on this product, so maybe that product makes more sense here. And what they're also going to do is create, like it says here, more personalized on-site experiences, so showing you stuff that you have previously maybe pinched in to zoom in on, or scrolled through. They're also going to be really paying attention to things like understanding if you have a pet in the home, if you have a child, right? Based on what you are browsing for, what you are buying, and things like that as well. Really interesting stuff. And then they can also generate more personalized marketing. And this is where CRM comes in. This is where I just get so excited. I don't know if you can tell, where you can literally send people emails and push notifications that are really, really personalized based on your browsing and your search and your scroll activity. So if you have been scrolling through Hindu stuff and you've been zooming in on, what's it called, disco cowgirl out invitations and things like that, it's gonna probably at some point be able to figure that out and go, hey, did you know that we've got this range of disco cowgirl invitations as well? Now, again, this is just anecdotal. This is my understanding of how platforms like this can work, and I'm hoping that Etsy is going to put this into practice in this way too. So very exciting, very advanced, very, very interested to see how this one pans out. So that was basically the end of the exciting fancy presentation, but there was a couple of little nuances that I pulled out of the actual webcast as well that I wanted to touch on as well. So I think we mentioned already the decline in active sellers has not had an impact necessarily on revenue. So one of the questions that came in from one of the investors was, is the decline in active sellers anything to do with the decline in revenue coming into the platform? And basically the answer is no, because there is still tons of really high quality sellers on here. And actually the sellers that have left the platform, for the vast majority, there will be nuances of course, but the vast majority of the sellers that have left the platform were all either, not necessarily following the Etsy rules, not necessarily following the standards that Etsy is setting for their customers in terms of customer service and things like that. And so actually what this led to, even though there was a decline in active sellers, is that better quality sellers were thriving as a result, and also that more customers and more orders were being left with 5-star reviews than ever before in 2024, which is amazing to know that people were having, a better experience with the sellers they were finding on Etsy than before. And one thing to note here is, even if you don't think this necessarily impacts you, if you think about any time that you have had a bad experience with a brand, for example, if you've bought something from, Temu or Shein or anywhere like that, not that I condone it, but say that you have, and you have a really bad experience, what are the chances that you're ever going to go back again? They're very, very slim, right? Most people will have a good experience or a bad experience with the brand, and that first experience will impact, or that one experience will impact the way they shop with that brand again. Okay, so the less buyers that are getting bad experience with other sellers, the more likely they are to keep coming back and buying with other sellers too, right? So all in all, it's a good thing there. Another thing to mention is 2025 is Etsy's 20th anniversary, 20th birthday. So I really hope there is going to be a big birthday celebration around this that we can get involved in. It's a really exciting milestone, and I really genuinely hope that that's going to help, and be a big event for the year too. Then we talked about before how they mentioned that they are moving away from certain advertising styles and into more this direct TV stuff. So it's going to be very interesting to see that. They also talked about the kind of middle and the bottom of the funnel marketing as well. So as a whole, they are going to be going after key life events, right? So, for example, weddings, moving home, potentially, hopefully, like my understanding of this is they might move into less big brand Etsy ads and more positioning Etsy as the place to go for certain life events like that. So, for example, if you are moving home, you have Etsy on your mind for the things that you need, in your new home. If you are having a baby, if you are having you getting married, if you have a big birthday coming up, whatever life events you can think of, Etsy is basically mentioned. And this was just a short kind of passing mention in the Q&A. So this is what my take is on it. What I would really love to see here is Etsy turning, ads around those big events, creating ads around those big events to create awareness around the fact that those products are available on Etsy and to keep people coming back for each life event after that. Okay. They also mentioned about the bottom of funnel, so really getting people in that are purchase ready and ready to buy, better AI and machine learning for better shopping ads and targeting, so showing the items that are most likely to convert in ads, which means that our ad budgets are going to get a better return as well, which would be fantastic. I also mentioned that they are planning to shift the kind of development teams into a lot more balanced focus between getting people into the app, getting people into this kind of long time view of Etsy versus that initial conversion rate. So getting that sale there and then, which hopefully should help to alleviate some of the pressures that we're having with conversion rates this year as well. Now, another big thing that they mentioned was this whole sell it cheaper, ship it faster shift in the market has obviously been potentially slightly problematic for Etsy. So things like Shein, things like Temu, things like these horrible big, sorry if you shop there, but these big companies, in fact, not sorry, don't shop in these places. These big companies that are, importing mass amounts of poor quality products, and filling up landfills with them after 5 minutes because they're absolute garbage. There is a shift in the market that people are kind of expecting that. But one thing Josh was very, very firm on was that it's not the Etsy brand, and we're not competing in a race to the bottom about, who can sell it cheapest, who can ship it fastest. And instead, they're racing to the top to, highlight the best possible sellers, to highlight craftsmanship, to talk about, put sellers kind of artisanal craftsmanship at the forefront to make sure that we are as a brand, Etsy is highlighted as something very, very different and as actually not trying to compete with these big marketplaces either, which is great for us because why would we want to be selling our products for any cheaper, and why would we be wanting to ship our products any faster than we can do if we are making them by hand and things like that as well, right? We mentioned also previously around the tariffs, so there's potentially global supply chain issues to come. That is going to be something that everybody's going to need to keep an eye on internally. There is also, Josh also mentioned this is a chance for us to maybe be part of something a little bit different, because he also mentioned that some huge percentage, I didn't write the percentage down, but a percentage of sellers buy their supplies from businesses within like a 60-mile radius or something like that. So basically people are shopping local on Etsy, which is great to know, right? For in the supply system, in the supply kind of category. So that's really interesting to know as well. And so basically he's saying there's a potential here to be part of a different conversation about shopping local and things like that as well. Again, really big focus on elevating the best of Etsy around craftsmanship and level of quality. And basically, he also mentioned he wants to highlight the sellers that do the best job of serving customers. So again, I talk about this all the time. It is one of my 5 pillars for, your consistent sales on Etsy, for building a business that lasts, is your customer service. It is offering the best possible customer service. It's delighting your customers to get them, leaving rave reviews, coming back time and time again. But one thing I am taking from this around how many times this was mentioned is that your reviews are going to be more important than ever. So please keep asking your customers for reviews, keep delighting your customers, keep giving them an experience that keeps them coming back. Repeat customers are going to be really important, and reviews are going to be really important as well. So more important than ever also. A big focus on the photography and the images yourself that we've already talked about. There was also talk around Etsy ads in the Q&A. So apparently there is work to be done to make organic and paid search work better in tandem so that buyers see less repetition. So this is an interesting one, and it's going to be something to watch. But ultimately, at first, my thought here was, that sounds a little bit scary that, if you are ranking high in search, but then you are paying for ads, are you maybe going to stop ranking high in search because you're paying for that ad instead? There is potentially something to watch there around your return on ad spend and your organic sales versus your ad sales. But one thing to keep in mind, and I know that we get really panicky when Etsy makes any changes to any algorithm or ads or anything like that, Etsy wants you to make the sale so that they make the profit, right? So that they make their fees. So no matter what they do, it's going to be to ideally get more sales from the customers that are landing on the platform. And so that's what I'm keeping in mind here until we know more around this as well. So that is definitely going to be something to watch there. Another little nugget as well that I took from the Q&A was that a lot of people are coming to Etsy from a big life event, like weddings, like baby showers, whatever it might be. They're buying a lot in one go. And then over time, they naturally buy less as they have less of a need for the platform. So that's something that they are, hopefully looking into for 2025. It kind of explains the decline in the habitual buyer base. And apparently this is really normal for them to see. And also because we are coming out of the wedding boom, which I'm sure if any other fellow wedding stationers are here, they will know this too. Huge wedding boom in 2021, 2022, even to an extent 2023 as people postponed, as people kind of push weddings out, things like that. But that's tailing off now and going back to normal levels. And so if you are, as a wedding stationer, seeing maybe a decline there, that is something to keep in mind. Also, there are less weddings than there has been, in previous years. And previous years were not the norm. This is more the norm. So that's just something to consider as well. So I just wanted to end on a little bit of a wrap up here around, everything that we've just discussed. Hopefully this has been helpful. Big things that I want you to take away from it. Customer service is going to be more important than ever before. It's always been important. Nothing has changed here. And when these things come out and these presentations come out, everyone starts panicking that the algorithm's changed and this has happened and we need to change this and everything's going to go to pot. And actually, if you build a system based on the 5 pillars that I teach, so that is market demand. So there is a demand in the market for your product, understanding your customer. Number 2, so that you can create listings that convert for that customer. So the better you understand your customer, the higher your conversion rate is because you are building products around what that customer needs and you are describing your products and showcasing your products in ways that your customer needs to understand in order to trust you enough to buy. Driving the right kind of traffic with the right keywords, that's never changed either. And then delighting your customers is number 5 with the number one, creating the number one best kind of experience for your customers to keep them coming back time and time again. So nothing groundbreaking whatsoever. But if you keep with those 5 pillars that we always talk about in the daily sales guide, so that I bang on about all the time, I sound like a broken record with it. They're the most important things. It doesn't matter about these hacks, about how you write your tags and titles and, what type of keyword that you need to put in to hit some searches. None of that is important. The important things are building a sustainable business based around core e-commerce principles, market demand, understanding your customer, driving, building listings that are set up to convert, driving traffic through basic SEO principles, and delighting your customers so they leave you reviews and they come back time and time again. Please focus on those 5 things. One other big thing to really think about is the fact that they are bringing in these machine learning kind of algorithms to more closely look at photos and analyze photos and rank photos based on, like they said, things like artisanal quality and craftsmanship and all of that stuff. Your images and your photos are more important than ever before. They have always been important. Every single Etsy coach and mentor will tell you, great photos is what you need, and it is true. It's always been true, but this is just proof that it's going to be even more important than ever. You need to make sure that you are not only showing your customers that your products are incredible and this is how you make them, and this is the love and detail and quality and care and attention that goes into them, but you're also going to now need to start showing the algorithm this too. So make sure you are invested in high quality photos and mock-ups and whatever else it might be to really get that point across as well. So I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions, I would love to hear them. I'm not even sure where I'm going to post this right now. I just thought I will film this for my lovely Daily Sales Society members, and I will probably share this wider as well, because I think it's really important that we understand what is going on in the Etsy landscape, how that is impacting the way our shoppers are shopping, our buyers are shopping, how that is impacting us as a seller, and anything that we need to know in terms of making changes, which we don't really need to make any changes. We just need to be aware of the fact that the market is shifting and that Etsy is bringing in these kind of new initiatives and tools and things like that that we need to focus on. So I will end it by saying, delight your customers, make sure your listings are set up perfectly to convert, and perfectly was the wrong word there. I don't believe in perfect, but beautifully so that they convert. Make sure that you are considering adding personalization if that is something that you can offer, because it's going to be even more important in 2025 and open up a huge host of opportunities for you. And they are the three things that I would take away from this if I was you. So let me know again if you have any questions off the back of this, and if not, I will catch you all later. Bye.